Ethan sat in his small apartment, carefully adjusting his tie while glancing at the clock. Today wasn't just another day, it was the biggest interview of his life. After years of working late nights and juggling bills, this opportunity promised stability for him and his little daughter, Lily. As he tucked his resume into a folder, Lily peeked around the corner holding her worn-out teddy bear. "Daddy, will you be home early today?" she asked softly. Ethan bent down, smoothing her curly hair. "If everything goes well, sweetheart, this job will change everything. I'll be able to give you more than just the basics." But fate had its own plans. On his way to the interview, he noticed a woman stranded by the roadside, rain pouring down as she struggled with a flat tire. Cars zoomed past, but no one stopped. Ethan hesitated. His dream job, or helping a stranger? With a deep sigh, he pulled over. Ethan rushed over, his shoes splashing in the puddles. The woman was shivering, trying to force the jack under her car with trembling hands. "Ma'am, let me help you," Ethan said, his voice calm but urgent. She looked up, startled, then relieved. "Oh, thank goodness. I've been stuck here for 20 minutes. No one would stop." Without wasting a moment, Ethan took off his blazer, rolled up his sleeves, and crouched down. The rain drenched his shirt, but he kept working, loosening the bolts and lifting the car. Lily's face flashed in his mind. This kindness was costing him precious minutes, but his conscience wouldn't let him walk away. The woman stood beside him, holding an umbrella awkwardly over his head, watching as he swapped the tire with steady hands. "You didn't have to stop," she whispered, almost guilty. Ethan tightened the last bolt and smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But everyone deserves a helping hand." By the time he finished, his phone buzzed with a notification. His heart sank, it was already 15 minutes past his interview time. Ethan quickly wiped his muddy hands on his soaked pants and glanced at the woman. She looked at him with gratitude shining in her eyes. thank you so much," she said, almost breathless. "I don't know what I would have done without you." He forced a polite smile, but inside his stomach twisted. He opened his phone again and saw a message from the company, "We regret to inform you that your interview time has passed. Please reschedule if possible." His chest tightened. This was the one chance he'd been preparing for, the opportunity that could secure Lily's future. And he had thrown it away, for a stranger. The woman noticed his expression. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently. Ethan shook his head, the weight of the loss sinking in. "No. I just missed the most important interview of my life." She froze, guilt flashing across her face. "You sacrificed that, for me?" Ethan sighed, running a hand over his wet hair. "It doesn't matter. You were stranded. I couldn't just drive by." The woman looked at him silently, as if memorizing his words. Then, with a strange determination in her eyes, she said, "You have no idea how much this moment is about to change your life." Ethan blinked, confused by her words. The rain was still falling, dripping from his hair onto his shirt, but he barely noticed. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. The woman straightened her coat, her confidence suddenly unmistakable. "Let's just say I'm not exactly who I look like standing on the side of the road. I owe you more than just a thank you." Ethan tilted his head, unsure if she was joking. "Ma'am, I didn't stop for a reward. I just—" She raised a hand, cutting him off. "I know. That's what makes it different. Most people wouldn't risk their future for someone they didn't know. But you did." She pulled out a sleek black card from her wallet and handed it to him. The gold lettering caught his eye immediately, CEO, Harrington Global Enterprises. Ethan's breath caught. Harrington Global was one of the most powerful corporations in the country. He had only dreamed of being near such a company. "My name's Victoria Harrington," she said calmly. "And I think you just showed me the kind of man this world doesn't see often. Let's talk about your future." Ethan stared at the card, stunned. He had missed his interview, but something far bigger had just walked into his life. Ethan's fingers trembled as he held the card. Victoria Harrington, he repeated, almost in disbelief. You're the Harrington. Victoria smiled slightly, tucking a strand of wet hair behind her ear. Guilty. And you're the man who just saved my day. Ethan shook his head, still processing. I don't understand. Why give me this? Because, she said firmly, stepping closer, character matters more than polished resumes. You could have chased your own success, but instead, you chose compassion. That's the kind of person I want on my team. Ethan blinked, his heart racing. Wait, you're saying, a job? Victoria nodded. Not just a job. Come see me tomorrow at my headquarters. I want to hear your story. And something tells me this missed interview might have been fate redirecting you to the right door. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak. All the years of struggle, sacrifice, and sleepless nights, could they really lead to this? He finally managed, I don't know what to say. Victoria smiled warmly. Say you'll show up tomorrow. That's all I need to hear. That night, Ethan sat at the small kitchen table while Lily colored with her broken crayons. He kept turning the glossy black card over in his hand, almost afraid it would vanish like a dream. Daddy, why are you smiling like that? Lily asked, squinting at him with curiosity. Ethan laughed softly, pulling her into his lap. Because something unbelievable happened today. He explained how he had stopped to help a stranger, how he missed the interview, and how that very woman turned out to be one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. Lily's eyes widened. So, you helped her, and now she wants to help you. That's right, Ethan said, kissing the top of her head. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't take something away, it brings something even greater. Lily grinned, hugging him tightly. You're the best daddy ever. I knew something good would happen to you. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat, holding her close. For the first time in years, he felt hope rush through his chest like sunlight breaking through clouds. Tomorrow could change everything. The next morning, Ethan wore his only suit, a little worn at the cuffs but freshly pressed with care. He held Lily's hand as they walked to her school, promising he'd tell her everything later. By the time he arrived at the towering glass building of Harrington Global, his nerves were on fire. The lobby alone looked more like a palace than an office. Polished marble floors, walls lined with art, and people in expensive suits moving with purpose. He approached the front desk. I'm here to see Victoria Harrington. The receptionist raised a brow but quickly checked her computer. Mr. Ethan Miller, correct? She's expecting you. Ethan's jaw nearly dropped, she had remembered his name. Minutes later, he was led into a grand conference room. Victoria Harrington stood by the window, the city skyline stretching out behind her. She turned, smiling. You came. Of course, Ethan said, trying to steady his voice. Victoria motioned for him to sit. Before we talk about your future here, I need to see something. Consider this a test. Not of your resume, but of your mind and your values. Ethan leaned forward, both nervous and curious. What kind of test? Her eyes gleamed. A real one. Something that will show me if you're truly the man I believe you are. Ethan's palms grew damp as Victoria slid a folder across the polished table. Inside were profiles, real employees of Harrington Global. Each one had a story, some were high performers, others struggling, and a few on the verge of losing their jobs. Victoria folded her arms. If you were in my position, who would you keep, and who would you let go? Ethan froze. His heart pounded. You want me to decide who deserves to stay employed? Victoria nodded. Exactly. This company isn't just numbers, it's people. I need leaders who can balance compassion with responsibility. Show me how you think. Ethan flipped through the profiles slowly. A single mother raising 2 kids, an older employee who had been loyal for decades but wasn't keeping up with new systems, a young graduate with big ideas but poor discipline. Each page felt heavier than the last. He finally looked up. I can't just cross names off like they're files. These are lives. If someone is struggling, isn't it better to train them, guide them, give them a chance, rather than just cut them loose? Victoria leaned back, studying him. There was silence in the room, broken only by the hum of the city outside. Then, a faint smile curved across her lips. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. Ethan sat in uneasy silence, waiting for Victoria's response. Her expression shifted from stern to thoughtful, almost as if she were weighing his soul rather than his words. Finally, she closed the folder and pushed it aside. You passed, she said simply. Ethan blinked. Passed? That was a test. Victoria nodded. A fabricated one. None of those employees are in danger of losing their jobs. But I needed to know how you make decisions when people's lives are on the line. Too many leaders here look at workers as disposable. I wanted to see if you were different. Relief and disbelief washed over him. So this wasn't about skills, it was about values? Exactly, Victoria said firmly. Skills can be taught. Integrity cannot. Ethan exhaled slowly, the tension easing from his shoulders. But before he could speak, Victoria leaned forward. You're not here because you missed an interview. You're here because fate wanted me to see who you are. And I think Harrington Global could use someone like you. Ethan's heart raced. You mean, you're offering me a job? Victoria's smile deepened. Not just a job, Mr. Miller. A future. Ethan's breath caught. A future, he repeated, almost afraid to believe it. Victoria stood and walked toward the window, the city stretching out beneath them like a kingdom. Most people who come through these doors beg for entry-level positions. But you're not most people. You've proven something greater than ambition, you've proven humanity. She turned back to him, her gaze steady. I don't want to waste your time with small titles. I want you to step into a leadership track immediately. A management role. One where your decisions will actually shape lives. Ethan's eyes widened. Management? But I've never led a corporate team before. My resume isn't. Victoria raised her hand. Your resume didn't change my mind. Your actions did. Yesterday, you chose kindness over personal gain. Today, you showed me you protect people over profit. That's leadership. The rest you can learn. Ethan's chest tightened as he tried to absorb her words. A part of him wanted to protest, to say he wasn't worthy. But another part, stronger, louder, knew this was the door life had meant him to walk through all along. I don't know how to thank you, he whispered. Victoria smiled. Don't thank me yet. Prove me right. That's the real test. Ethan sat back in the chair, his mind spinning. Just yesterday, he was worried about making rent and keeping food on the table. Now, a CEO was offering him a chance most people only dreamed of. He finally stood, meeting Victoria's gaze. If you believe I can do this, then I'll give it everything I have. I accept. A flicker of satisfaction crossed her face. She extended her hand. Welcome to Harrington Global, Ethan. Their handshake sealed more than a deal, it sealed a turning point in his life. Report here Monday morning, Victoria continued. You'll start with orientation and meet your team. After that, the real journey begins. I expect long hours and tough challenges, but I also expect you to lead with the same heart you showed me yesterday. Ethan nodded firmly. I promise I will. As he left the building, stepping out into the busy streets, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter than it had in years. For once, the future didn't look like a storm, it looked like a sunrise. That evening, when he picked up Lily from school, she ran into his arms. "Daddy, how did it go?" Ethan smiled, lifting her high into the air. "Sweetheart, our life is about to change forever." Monday morning arrived, and Ethan walked into Harrington Global with a new suit, polished shoes, and determination burning in his chest. The office buzzed with energy, phones ringing, executives moving quickly, meetings happening in glass-walled rooms. Victoria greeted him personally, which left the staff whispering in surprise. "Your first assignment," she said, handing him a folder, "is to solve a conflict in one of our departments. 2 teams are at odds, and it's costing us progress. I want to see how you handle it." Ethan swallowed hard but nodded. He entered the department to find tension thick in the air, employees pointing fingers, voices raised. He didn't raise his own voice. Instead, he listened. Patiently, carefully, he let each side speak. Then, with the same calm strength that had driven him to stop on that rainy road, he reminded them they were working toward the same goal. By the end of the meeting, the shouting had turned into conversation, and the room began to heal. Employees who had barely looked at each other shook hands. When he returned to Victoria's office, she smiled knowingly. "Just as I thought. You were the right choice." That night, Ethan walked home with Lily's small hand in his. The city lights shimmered around them, but nothing shined brighter than the future ahead. He had lost one interview, but gained something far greater. A new life. A new purpose. And all because he chose kindness when it mattered most.